Tonight on Joy News Prime, Ghana records 5,127 COVID-19 cases after 427 more were added on Tuesday. The Ghana Health Service says workplaces and markets are increasingly becoming notorious for the spread of coronavirus.
So far, we have recorded, as at this morning, looking from the data from the 11th of May, 427 new cases, bringing our total to 5,127.
Former NCA Director General and Board Chairman and one other handed jail terms for causing financial loss to the state.
This was the first.
Also in this bulletin, High Court finds Auditor General Daniel Domelevu guilty of contempt. And in business,
Association of Bankers oppose gives mobile money interoperability charges. Meanwhile, consumers are equally unhappy.
Initiative to take away the charges, but bringing it back, yes, because right now we are trying to save the economy.
And later in the bulletin, a tricycle rider whose naked body was found on the compound of a hotel in Kumasi is believed to have been thrown off the third floor for refusing to pay for sex.
Hey, it is a boom. The crack you say, man, you come back. The fifth one, and no free so you talk from.
My name is Aisha Ibrahim, coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539 on GoTV channel 144 and DSTV channel 421. Remember, we're also free to air because we are on DTT. Israelite will join me shortly in the bulletin. Many thanks for choosing us. In our very first story, an Accra High Court has directed the Attorney General's office to seize properties worth $3 million from former top officials of the National Communications Authority. They were today handed jail terms ranging from 6 years to 5 years for causing financial loss to the state. Former NCA Board Chairman Eugene Bafo-Boni, former Director General of the NCA William Matthew Tete Tevi, and a former Deputy Coordinator of the National Security were found by the court to have been reckless and acted with impunity in the purchase of cyber surveillance equipment worth $4 million. Court correspondent Joseph Akable was in court in our reports.
The NCA case was the first corruption matter involving former government appointees that was filed by this administration. The Attorney General in 2018 accused 5 former government appointees of causing financial loss in the purchase of cyber surveillance equipment. The AG's office in 2018 accused 4 former government appointees and a businessman of causing financial loss in the purchase of cyber surveillance equipment. The office had alleged that this purchase was without the NCA board's approval. The transaction was also said to have been outside the mandates of the NCA and was also not captured in its budget. An amount of $4 million is said to have been withdrawn from the accounts of the National Communication Authority, and $1 million out of this was deposited into the accounts of an Israeli company. The remaining $3 million, according to the state, was lodged in the account of a businessman, George Derek Opon, who acted as a representative of the local agents of the Israeli company, Infralux Development Limited. Mr. Opon was also charged with stealing but was acquitted and discharged by the court. Another accused person, Nana Ensau, was earlier discharged as the Court of Appeal overturned the submission of no case ruling by the court. The court, however, found former NCA Board Chairman Eugene Bafo-Boni guilty and handed him a 6-year jail term. Former DG of the NCA, William Matthew Tete Tevi, was also found guilty and asked to serve 5 years in jail, while former Deputy National Security Coordinator, Alhaji Mimina Osman, also got a 5-year term.
Still in court, an Accra High Court presided over by Justice Ifia Sariboche has found Auditor General Daniel Domelevu guilty of contempt. The court held that the reason given by Mr. Domelevu that he was busy finishing up an audit report for Parliament, hence his failure to respond to an appeal seeking to set aside a surcharge, is untenable and an afterthought. The senior minister, Yao Safumafo, in his application in court asked that Mr. Domelevu be punished for failing to respond to his case challenging a $1 million surcharge on him within 14 days. The court granted that request but did not impose custodial sentence. Court correspondent Joseph Akable once more reports.
The senior minister filed a case in court asking that Mr. Domelevo be punished for failing to respond to his case, challenging a $1 million surcharge on him. His lawyers had asked the court to either impose a prison term or any appropriate sanctions against Mr. Domelevo. The Auditor General's office had insisted that Yaosafo Marfo wrongfully caused $1 million to be paid a UK-based consultancy firm, Kroll & Associates, to undertake investigations on behalf of the government. He has pointed out that there was no valid contract between the UK company and the Ghana government when Kroll & Associates began work in 2017. Justice Botwe in a ruling said the law requiring that the Auditor General responds to appeals to his surcharge within 14 days is good law. She also stated that evidence before the court shows that Mr. Domelevo was properly served and his failure to respond was willful. Lawyer for the Auditor General Thaddeus Sori pleaded with the court to be lenient in sentencing the guilty Auditor General. Justice Botwe said the court notes the important role the Auditor General plays and doesn't want to discourage him. She, however, said his office is always late in responding to such appeals. She then opted to rather caution and discharge the Auditor General.
And in other news, Ghana now has a total COVID-19 case count of 5,127 after 427 more cases were confirmed on Tuesday. 494 patients have recovered with 22 deaths recorded. Let's go through the figures. 22 deaths and 494 recoveries. And the regional breakdown are as follows. You have the Greater Accra region leading with 3,981 cases, Ashanti 662 cases, Central 154, Eastern 99 cases. And then the Western North has 56 cases, the Western region has 52 cases, Volta region has 33, and the Upper East region 22. The OT region has 24, Upper West 21, Northern region 16, Northeast 2, Bono 1. Right, still on COVID-19, there was a news conference on COVID-19. The Ghana Health Service says workplaces and markets are becoming new hotspots for the spread of COVID-19 in the country, apart from the fish processing factory in Tema, where one person is said to have infected 533 other workers. The Director General of the service cited an example where a couple spread the virus in a market at Obuasi. Dr. Patrick Abwaje says contact tracing teams have been at work trying to establish the persons the couple has infected. At the COVID-19 briefing at the Ministry of Information, he also mentioned several districts in the country he says have become hotspots. Komladong was there for Joy News.
The next major place is Ashanti region, where we have recorded 307 new cases. And out of that, about 272 has come from Obuasi alone. The central market was a case of a couple who were positive, unknown, and had been trading and working with people for the past 2 weeks. And we found their immediate contacts, 17 of their immediate contacts being positive. And that has led to the spread in the market. As we speak now, the market has been closed, so that contact tracing and cleaning and disinfection will take place.
Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abwaje, at Tuesday's briefing, which confirmed the country's case count currently stands at 5,127. Out of the 427 new cases, Accra recorded 89. Dr. Abwaje revealed a number of areas are now hotspots in the Greater Accra region.
So far, 26 districts have been affected in Greater Accra. The current hotspot, that is where we really have new cases, are Tema Metro, which I will get to again with the house heat maps, Korle Klote, Accra Metro, and Pong Katamanso. Of the 27 cases in Central Region, the affected districts are KEA, where there is a major enhanced surveillance going on to be able to identify and also contain. We have Cape Coast, Ejumakun, and Ewim. Currently, about 148 fishermen were under quarantine in Mori. They have completed their 14-day follow-up. 3 tested positive, and they are currently in our isolation center awaiting recovery.
There's been some concern about Ghana's perceived slow recovery rate, with many of the view Ghana's 494 recoveries could have been better. Dr. Abwaje attributed the situation to what he describes as Ghana's high recovery standards. He explains.
Ghana has probably the highest standard among the sub-region. That's what gives us the challenge. Ghana is doing 2 negatives. So, but there are other countries where they do 1 negative, and some of them, when you recover, you are discharged and declared as negative, not necessarily the laboratory negative. So if Ghana is to scale down our standards to, let's say, 1 negative, we will have a significant number.
He said some persons out of 130 who have tested negative and are awaiting their second negative test are reluctant to submit themselves to the test. For Dr. Aboagye, it may be time for Ghana to revise its recovery protocols.
We have done some assessment to see what the probability that someone who tested first negative will test positive again. The numbers are very, very insignificant, so we may consider revising our protocol. And if we do, we'll let Ghanaians know and let them know this is the new policy, maybe aligning with most of our neighbors who are just doing 1 negative.
He urged Ghanaians to step up workplace hygiene practices as efforts are being made to deal with the situation.
Workplace has become another important area, and as you can see, all the new hotspots are coming from hot workplaces, and so we need to ensure that what we do in our workplaces, creating the necessary space, hygienic environment, is extremely important. Social distancing, even within the workplace, is extremely important if you are going to be able to contain.
Meanwhile, in the coming days, Ghana will receive data on all Ghanaians stuck outside the country who want to be evacuated home for a government decision. Information Minister Kojo Pankuma provided some details.
Missions were asked to gather data on who is stranded outside the country so that you can even know the numbers and where they are and use that data as a basis for decision making. It's our understanding that I think by the end of this week, they will ferry in the data that they have collated. So maybe by the end of this week, we can have some more clarity on the numbers that they have gathered. But just to put it in context, that directive to the missions was to them to gather data. And so the interpretation that is coming across that there's an impending evacuation, I think it should be put in its right context.
Now, the mining town of Obuasi now has 80% of all cases of COVID-19 in the Ashanti region. The town now has 533 of the 662 cases recorded in the entire region. Indeed, in the latest update by the Ghana Health Service, Obuasi recorded 272 new cases. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Awachi, gives a breakdown of the situation in Obuasi.
So far, we have recorded, as at this morning, working from the data from the 11th of May, 427 new cases, bringing our total to about 5,127. The total new cases from the 9th was 277, 160 for the 10th, and we have 427 new cases for yesterday. Out of that, 272 of them has come from Obuasi Township alone. 1,474 has come from routine surveillance, and then 3,538 has come from the enhanced surveillance, which we continue to do.
So some residents of Obuasi are appealing to government to lock down the town as health authorities highlight challenges in halting the spread. They believe further delayed action can worsen the mining town's case count, which is currently the highest in the Ashanti region. The posture is a marked departure from the attitude of some people in the municipality a few days ago who think COVID-19 is nothing to worry about. Residents say it is time for authorities to act and people to change their lifestyles. My colleague Ohiming Tuya of our health desk has more in the following report.
Out of a total of 483 COVID-19 cases recorded in the Ashanti region, Obuasi accounts for 272, making it the hottest spot for the virus. The town also has the highest number of over 4,000 samples tested. Authorities blame complacency and negative attitude of some residents for the upsurge in cases. Market women especially have been flouting social distancing protocols, forcing authorities to close Obuasi Central Market A and B to business indefinitely. Armed security personnel had to be deployed to ward off resistance from residents protesting the setting up of an isolation center. Health authorities appear to face a Herculean task in dealing with the human factor of the fight.
We should be so concerned about the figures, and not even only the figures, but if my sample was taken 3 weeks back and I've now had the results and it's positive, what happened from the day of the sample taking and the day I had my results? Where have I been to? Who have I mingled with? So it's a very big concern. It makes contact tracing very difficult because the case would have even lost remembrance of who they have had contact with. These people are not people who were sick. You know, it is community sample taking, voluntary community sample taking. So it means they were in their houses, they were at their workplaces, no sign of sickness. So then if you take my sample, I go about my normal duties with my colleagues, with my customers, with everybody. I go to the same market with any other person until my result came and I proved positive. So it makes it very dangerous.
In the midst of the dilemma, some residents want immediate lockdown of the new epicenter of the coronavirus in Obuasi.
When the cases start coming, we never expected, because Obuasi, you know, we are safe, but just 1 week time, we started confirming cases, and for about 1 week, we have confirmed about 256 cases. So it's dangerous living in Obuasi for now. I never understand why Obuasi was not part of the places they locked down, because first 3 cases that they confirmed, one was from Obuasi. So what I was expecting from the president just last Sunday was Obuasi to lock down, because checking some of the regions, Obuasi cases are even higher than some of the regions. So Obuasi should have been locked down even more than 1 week or 2 weeks, because at least getting locked down and being safe is better than getting the virus.
In fact, I'm scaring, because right now we don't know who tested the positive, and we are all moving around. What I think is our opinion leaders and then the MCEs and DCEs have to come together and then consult the government if they can even lock Obuasi at least 1 week. Safety first, though it's hard, but at least 1 week is enough.
From Obuasi, Ohiminteria reporting.
Staying in Obuasi, some COVID-19 patients there have been relocated to an isolation center under tight security. The transfer follows a successful takeover of the facility by armed members of the COVID-19 Security Task Force. The COVID-19 task force on Monday night forcibly broke into the Pride facility at Akporiso, which had been locked up by some angry residents. The residents who had been protesting the use of the facility locked up and blocked the 2 main entrances and road leading to the place. My colleague Ohiming Terry again of our health desk monitored the operation and has come through this report.
It's gradually becoming the epicenter of COVID-19 in the Ashanti region. The area, as at Monday, May 10, 2020, has recorded 261, more than half of 483 COVID-19 cases recorded in the entire Ashanti region. Local and health authorities are concerned with the surge in coronavirus cases, despite efforts to curb the spread. They blame lack of attitudinal change on the part of residents, especially market women, for throwing caution, including social distancing protocols, to the wind. Health authorities met strong resistance from residents of Akaporiso suburb as they prepare an isolation center for some COVID-19 patients. The angry youth blocked the main road to the facility and put the main entrance under lock and key because the center could pose health risks to the community. They also packed concrete blocks to block one of the main entrances. After several attempts to convince the angry youth to rescind their decision failed, the Obuasi East Assembly resolved to use force.
We've given them enough education for about 2-3 days. We've spoken with them. The head directorate has gone to speak with them. The chief, the assembly member, the unit committee, we've met them. They are still resisting. So the next option is force. So today, all things being equal, we'll have to send them there because we can't continue keeping them in their various homes because most of them share basic facilities with other people in their homes. So today we had a dissect meeting and we concluded that the security personnel should make sure that the people pave way for the patient to be taken to the center.
The community is not happy of the decision of the convent committee and the assembly to evacuate our brothers and sisters who have been infected with the virus to be isolated in that community.
At about 8 p.m. Monday, all was set for the COVID-19 task force to come face to face with the angry youth. Obuasi District Commander DSP Martin Asenso is leading the charge.
If the road has been blocked, we shall go there and remove them. If you have any person or persons gathered, we shall also arrest them.
The armed team forcibly broke padlocks to pave way for the transfer of the patients to the facility. In less than an hour, the operation was over. DSP Martin Asenso is the Obuasi District Commander. He says all isolation centers will be henceforth manned by armed security personnel.
The inhabitants went and locked the main door of the compound. They used their own padlock to, lock the place. So I have to break in to make access to that particular place. At the moment, we have put security there, 24-hour guard for that particular place, because if you don't do this, it will also affect other community that, when we are bringing this, the people say, I don't agree, why are you bringing this place? You know that. So this is what the decision the DASEC have taken, the convent committee have taken, they are going to abide for this matter.
From Obuasi, for Joy News, Ohimintiria reporting.
NDC Member of Parliament for Boko Central and former Information Minister Mahama Ayariga says his flag bearer John Mahama has delayed in nominating his running mate and should have done so by now ahead of the 2020 elections. Speaking on a yet-to-be-aired interview tonight on PM Express from 9 p.m. on the Joy News channel, Mr. Ayariga, who also served as Youth and Sports Minister under the Mahama administration, says the NDC flag bearer will soon run out of time and will not have the excuse for delaying the outdooring of a running mate.
Somewhere in March, in April, people didn't even really want to pay attention to who's going to be whose running mate, okay? But going forward from now, people are really going to be asking, wait, what is holding you? Yes, COVID, we're dealing with COVID and etc. We're even relaxing the restrictions and people are advocating for relaxation of, all the restrictions and etc. So, why are you not mentioning your running mate? So I think that there has been a delay, and I think that the flag bearer, as soon as he can, should announce running mate. So we need to announce that early, and then we can move on. And I think that at a certain point, the delay is inexcusable.
The full interview airs on PM Express on Joy News channel tonight at 9 p.m. Make a date. Listen to Mahama Ayariga open up on his relationship with the Special Prosecutor Martin Amido and why he believes the man he still calls his father is persecuting him. We'll take a break. Joy News Prime. We'll be back with more. Time now for business. Sandra Apeno has the very latest from the business world. Hi, Sandra.
Yeah, Aisha, a lot has been happening with this mobile money interoperability. We had a few waivers, and we've been enjoying it for 2 months now, but GIPS is saying we're bringing it back. Customers are not happy. Bankers Association
definitely.
Also not happy.
What do you expect? Take it away,
so
Sandra.
we'll be talking about that in business. So celebrating 25 years of joy. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. As always, I'm here for business. The Ghana Association of Bankers has kicked against the decision by the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System GIPS to end fee waivers granted to customers who use the GIPS Pay, Instant Pay mobile money interoperability and ACH direct credit to transact business. In a letter signed, the CEO has been speaking about that. I'll bring you that later. But some consumers are equally not happy about this new development. They say the move would defeat government's agenda of going cashless.
I feel like it was a good initiative to take away the charges, but bringing it back, yes, because right now we are trying to save the economy. So if you have been able to take away the charges to make transaction easy and trying to bring it back, and we are also in an election year, I feel like, yes, it's really going to affect business because now the rate at which you can handle money is so risky. So we prefer to send money through electronic devices. And bringing back the charges, it will discourage people to do more of that.
In the past, we've realized that when people go to the shops to send monies, they already complain that the charges that they take from them is too much. They sometimes wish that from 100 cedis and below, you don't take anything. That is what they have wished in the past. And now that the government took it off, I think it's helping. That is helping. So I think reintroducing it won't help. I would wish it is taken off totally.
For the government to initiate the tax back again into that mobile money system, I would say it's something good because at least the government needs a little taxes to do certain things, especially in this pandemic era. But the other way around, I will not take that one too as necessary because sometimes the money you are having is not even enough for you to get certain things. So I think they should hold on for a little while. Then we see how the economy goes. When we are stable with it, then you can bring back that taxes.
So clearly, consumers are not happy with the decision to bring back those fees and charges, but the Ghana Association of Bankers has also kicked against the decision by the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System GIPS to end the fee waivers granted to consumers who use the GIPS Instant Pay mobile money interoperability and ACH direct credit to transact business. In a letter signed by its CEO Daniel K. Mensah, the association says that while we share in the expression of financial burden being borne by all actors in the financial services sector who have implemented various forms of concessions during the pendency of COVID-19, we do not agree with the unilateral withdrawal of waivers contrary to pronouncements made to the public. Banks are collecting agents of GIPS, having reliance on the waiver communicated to our clients that the waiver of fees on digital platforms and other alternative channels for banking will be enforced throughout the pendency of the epidemic. Any unilateral withdrawal of the waivers by GIPS will be detrimental to the image and credibility of the banking sector. We are therefore, by this letter, calling for a meeting with GIPS and Governor of the Bank of Ghana to urgently discuss this emerging development, and will respectfully ask that until such meeting is held and firm decision taken, GIPS suspends the decision taken on withdrawal of the waivers. And that was signed by CEO Daniel K. Mensah. In other news tonight, Business Owners Association says it is engaging financial institutions as well as tax and city authorities over demands on members to meet their respective obligations. Servicing of loans and fulfillment of tax and other fee obligations to relevant entities have become a challenge to businesses in wake of COVID-19. Executive Secretary Charles Appiah says the association is pushing for some tax relief. He's been speaking to Prince Appiah.
That COVID-19 is also giving us another way of rethinking as business people, where probably we could be looking at how we can produce some of these things within Ghana. But we cannot do that in isolation. We need government support to do that, which means there's an opportunity for business people in Ghana to look at how we can produce some of these things within Ghana, like the rice. You can do that and push off those foreign people around, and we control the market, that we save Ghana some money. But that we need government support. So the time has come for us to have what we call a conversation, business and government. What can we do to promote made in Ghana produce, all right, so that at least businesses in Ghana are capacitated to take care of the opportunity that comes in. And with the introduction of the future after, that's Africa Continental Trade Area, probably we can have access to export to other countries within Africa continent. Yes.
So what has been the discussion now? Because there are also concerns about local assemblies compelling, businesses in the Ashanti region, for instance, to pay their rates, their rents, and all this. Are there discussions to ensure that these things are relaxed during this period?
Yes, we are engaged with KMA. We are really engaged with KMA. Our last meeting with the mayor was about a week ago, and we're looking at how we can streamline some of these things so that at least, yes, they also need revenue to run the administration, and they depends on us to run all this, and if there's a shortage, also it's affected. So we want to get to a mutually agreed platform where there's a benefit to them, there's also a benefit to us as business. Now it's about relationship. How do we partner government? How do government also partner businesses that we can sustain the economy?
What is the Ashanti Business Owners Association also, leadership also doing to support its members in this difficult time?
Basically, we have varieties of players within the association. We have key players that are important huge. The startups, the smaller businesses, we support them with goods. We give them time to pay, at least. And we're also engaging the banks to make sure they understand the direction we are going now, so that if they can have space to give our people, our members, moratorium in terms of their loan repayment, probably then we can adapt that. So we're looking at holistically what we can do to sustain businesses, okay, without breaking anyone's back. We don't want to break the back of government. We don't want to break the back of our members.
That will be all for the first part of Business with me, Sandra Esinam Apeno. But where would the world be financially post-COVID-19? That will be up for discussion when I return after 8 p.m.
Testing mic 1, 2. Yeah, sounds better now. Thank you for your patience. And I'm Gary Al Smith. This is The Sport. Yesterday, we did bring you a slew of interviews from Kevin Prince Boateng, Laye Kingston, and Siki Akono on the players' possible return to the Black Stars. And I promised showing you comments from Ghanaians. And that's how we begin today. What are you saying on social media? Abdul Razak Mumuni says, I still can't believe that a generation of players like Apia Essien, Muntari, Dede could not win anything for Ghana. Well, King Paul Amandi says, if it's not just for anything's sake, why didn't you give him a call-up? Because he's doing well with Besiktas. Spazos Ozil Williams says, maybe he's just saying it for saying sake. Please, he should find out more details on KPB from the writer Kwabena Yeboah. As you know, Kwabena Yeboah is always against Kevin Prince Boateng coming back. Kweku Sribwa says, he's welcome back. He's a Ghanaian and he loves his nation. Lily Duku says, by this time, this pandemic would have ended your contract. By the time this pandemic would have ended, your contract will be exhausted. Stop talking plenty. I think he's talking about Siki Akono. Hamid Washidu Guarino says, this is the sign of a great coach. Francis Apia Akwe says, why bring him now? Have you forgotten all the chaos he caused together with Muntari? And finally, Junior Ben says, can't we build a new Black Stars team under Siki Akono? Always, we have to move back steps for the old players when any coach takes over the Black Stars. And Nick Mayer, Liverpool says, we passed Kevin Prince Boateng. As you know, Kevin Prince Boateng was playing for Fiorentina and he was loaned to Besiktas in Turkey. Both leagues, because of the coronavirus, are not going on, just like many, in fact, majority of the leagues around the world. However, this past weekend, we had 2 leagues that started around the world. So let's look at them, shall we? Starting with the Faroe Islands. Yep, the Faroe Islands have started their league, and let's get more details on what happened there. Now, the Faroe Islands, they are located between Scotland and Iceland. So they are a group of islands with a population of just 50,000 people. Now, get this. The whole island had only 187 people testing positive for COVID-19, and guess what? All of them have recovered. The last case was on the 22nd of April, and that's why the government has declared the islands COVID-19 free. So the league was restarted on Saturday, and the rule is that for every stadium, only 50 people, including the 22 players, will be allowed into the facility. So that's for the Faroe Islands. Let's go further east, because in South Korea, they started their K-League on Friday. Now, the background is that they have 10,909 cases as of the last time we checked. 9,000 people have recovered, 632, which was the reason why the government decided that, it was good enough to start the league. And also, they have had less than 50 COVID-19 cases daily for the last several weeks. Now, the league started again on Friday, like I said, and the number of media going into the stadium are restricted so that they can practice social distancing by having empty seats. Now, people allowed to enter the stadium, such as journalists and club officials, have to enter one by one, 2 meters apart. So as the Bundesliga looks to start on Saturday, they'll have to be following Faroe Islands and South Korea. We'll bring you updates of that. Moving on, and what about boxing? One of the leading boxing promoters in the country is speaking about the impact of the virus on his job, and we're speaking to Alex Ntiamwa, who says it's been very, very difficult.
It has not been easy as a boxing promoter and manager because, you know, our work evolves around events. And due to this COVID-19, events must be suspended till further notice because we don't know how the trend will go in terms of the how the infections will spread and how soon vaccine or maybe cure will be out or found. So it's like we are in the limbo. We don't know what to do now, but it's been very, very, very big challenge for me per se as a promoter and manager at the same time because I have a couple of boxes that I do manage and others that I do promote. With the promotion aspect, that is my livelihood, so it's very, very, very hard for me to even plan my next show. Secondly, on the management aspect is something else because you have a contractual agreement with boxers that you need to advance weekly allowances to them to be able to train. Though there is a ban on social gathering and all that stuff, but
so that's the sport for now for this first part. Thank you very much for your time. If you enjoy Prime, let's do this again tomorrow. If you enjoy news, when we come back, we'll be paying tribute to Sir Jones Atukwefiu. Today is the anniversary of his passing.
Time now for showbiz. Becky is here with the very latest. Hi, Becky.
Hello to you.
How you doing?
You're looking cute in
you
pink.
too, Eno Baraski.
Yeah, speaking of Eno, you know, I really didn't want to talk about this particular issue because, you know, trading insults is not,
you know, I warned you about this from day one.
This is actually about medical, tweeting something about Eno, your favorite, you know, girl, Eno Virus. We have the tweet somewhere there. I mean, I don't really want to go into details. I think it's getting bad. And so medical tweeted something really bad, and Eno came to respond to medical, you know.
And now medical says he's not going to respond and all of that. I mean, they need to pause at a point and look at what they're doing. Exactly. I think they need to do something about this before their followers decide or take a decision on them.
Yeah, but let's talk about the actual face of GH rap. Have you heard about AY Puyon? I don't even know.
Is he a musician or a comedian or what?
Okay, so he's been telling me earlier this afternoon that you know, getting into the industry has been very difficult. He was once, or he's actually an actor, but because the acting is not paying, he had to do comedy, do something else.
Okay.
This AY Poyo, the face of GH rap, man. Okay, AY Poyo is a stand-up comedian and at the same time a rapper.
Okay.
And you know, I mix comedy with rap.
You mix comedy with rap.
And then bring out something different. So before something will rise, we plan for everything. That we're just going to do everything like, no, when we got the attention, we have to bring something unique out. And that is what we plan for.
Yeah.
And I think it's a whole lot of, you know, team stuff and then management. We just have to look on the other side and then see how things is going to be like.
Tell us about the brand. So from today onwards, are we going to see you in that chain, stainless steel, but I think it's
rusting.
Yeah, it's rusting. And what's that again? Is it that going to be your belt?
Okay. That is a nice question though, but I
want to see the sponge. Oh, that's nice. Is that going to be?
No, I do two different things altogether, and it depends on how the show is going to be like.
Okay.
With stand-up comedy, I can be in drama form, like put myself in drama form.
Okay.
With the script and the craft will tell me what I should wear to stage, and then with music session, it's not going to be like this always, but I just started with this and people know me with this.
Okay.
As time goes on, we're going to change certain things, because when you do one thing always, they will get tired. So just looking up to the next level.
Is it paying?
Oh, okay.
I want to know whether the attention given is paying enough. Are people viewing the videos? If they're viewing the videos, is it paying you?
Okay. We just started it and people are getting interested in what we are doing.
Okay.
And I think, this pandemic issue has blocked everything else. But people have started calling for, endorsement and stuff.
Okay.
So I think right now we've been getting small from it.
Okay. Hope that you're not going to vanish.
No.
Do you have any plans, long-term plans?
Yeah, because it's not easy to be a celebrity or to be a public figure.
Yeah.
And as you find yourself in the industry and people like what you are doing, all what you need to do is focus and determination for your people to know that you too, you can do this, and they are going to support. But you cannot just come in and then you vanish like that. No, we have plans for ourselves. So
Ghana pandie. Video kitu abi try me hu nyina akeka me. Tuntuma awie me. Ghana dia ansa na ba hit no abre o. Na wanya so ba hit.
And I'm told his followers are
called Puyorians.
Puyorians.
Yes.
But like, so are you a Puyorian?
Nah. I don't belong to Puyo.
This is what
but
people will do.
It's interesting. Anyway, I want to see this as his humble beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a year from now, he's going to become so big, and then we can refer to this interview.
Exactly.
But the guy is already calling himself a celebrity.
Oh, he is a celebrity. I mean, we're celebrating him right here on our show. So
okay, so what's about Fifi Coleman?
Yeah, Fifi, we'll be having a first virtual play.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to that. Fifi Coleman, he's an actor. He's putting this together, and he also mentioned that he misses church.
The play goes up at the end of the month. We're trying to put together You Play Me, I Play You, Clemente Suarez and General Ntatia. It's a 2-month play. 1 hour, 15 minutes virtual. So that's the way we are going now. We just hope it's as profitable as what it would be if we had done it at the National Theatre to keep us all going. Because now we need the work. Everybody needs the work right now. Yeah. I kind of miss church. I miss church. And then the things we do at, because part of the Creative Arts Ministry, ICGC Christ Temple, and they come together with the people, performances and all those things, and I miss that a lot. So I think first, and it's due. It's about time you just go give thanks. Okay, if you're not, it's not because you're so lucky that you didn't get it and you didn't know. So give thanks where it is due. But after all that is done, maybe we can see some beach. Or some travel outside. I think some vacation. Some vacation is good. Will be good for me. The soul needs it. The soul needs it. Yes, you've been cooked up in the house for so long. To just go out there, go do something wild a little. Yeah.
So You Play Me, I Play You.
I'll be looking forward to
play, actually.
Okay, yeah, we hear Abubakar also put up a virtual play, but
How come
you
we didn't
play me,
hear
I
about
play you.
that?
I'll be looking forward
Me
to seeing
too.
that.
I'll play you.
Maybe we can learn some lessons from there. Thank you so much for showing this.
Anytime.
And that'll be it for sure.
Supreme Court Justice nominee Yoni Kolende is advocating a Supreme Court without ceiling of the number of judges. He argues that it gives the judiciary the necessary flexibility to deal with issues that come before it. He has been responding to questions at his vetting before the Appointment Committee of Parliament.
Where if you had a ceiling, and then you also have practical incidents, just like we have a practical situation where you have practical incidents where you have need for panels and for judges, because judges are either conflicted or judges had dealt with other aspects of the matter. And so the Chief Justice has to empanel another court, and he doesn't have the judges. What does he do? He comes back to go through a process of constitutional amendment to increase the number. So to fix the number is to make it mechanical and to limit it as if you know the future and the beginning from the end. And there have been practical situations where the Chief Justice was armstrong in finding the requisite number of judges to deal with a particular matter or the other. You are elevating judges from the Court of Appeal. Those judges, if you permit them to go to the Supreme Court, when they go there, any case they have tried, whether they did it in the High Court or in the Court of Appeal, is a no-go for them if that case comes up. So they are out. Mr. Chairman, if you permitted me to go to the court, imagine the clients I have had and the cases I have done. All of those cases, most of them, if they are personal, are likely to be no-go areas for me. So you don't want to create structural inflexibility in a document that is meant to be living. I think it just offends the nature of the document itself.
He is also calling for structural reforms at the judicial service to ensure better remuneration for judges and staff. He observes the judiciary cannot be said to be wholly independent until they are in a position to decide their finances.
I would like to see the type of reform that would enable the judiciary add to infrastructure, add to training and support of training of and building of capacity for support judicial staff, and even training of lawyers. You know, all the things that we need to make the judiciary be the judiciary that it ought to be. I don't relish a life for the duration that I'll be there in the kind that I have seen. And I'm hoping that this House will become more sensitized on the needs of the judiciary. And you know, you cut their budget by half. You ask them to keep 30% of internally generated money. Judges are hired, and almost a year into their employment, they don't have accommodation, they don't have a car, they don't even have a salary. And yet you expect these people to be this sacrosanct group of people. We need fundamental structural reform so that we can deliver the justice that the people of Ghana need. Because if the system, touch wood, does not function and the public lose confidence in the administration of justice, the alternative is not a future that we want for ourselves, or let alone for our children.
Another Supreme Court judge nominee who appeared before the Appointments Committee, Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, says it is not the duty of members of the defunct Ayawaso West Wuogon Commission to push for implementation of its report. She says their recommendations constituted advice, and it is the job of parliamentarians and other institutions to push for its implementation.
You are guided by law. The rules say that when you hand in your report, you are functus officio. So it's not your duty to go chasing people to implement. It becomes property that honorable members like you should follow up, not the commission. The commission doesn't exist anymore. It is functus officio. And when, for example, judges take decisions in the courts, the judge may have really sweated over the decision. It goes on appeal and it is reversed. The judge doesn't hold a press conference to complain. That's the nature of it.
Would you have wished personally for better?
Well, when you give advice, you hope that it will be taken. But what I know of advice is that those who want it don't need it, and those who need it don't want it.
Now, her name came up as one of those likely to be named chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Professor Mensah-Bonsu told MPs she was never approached to take up that job.
Very difficult time for me. Nobody had approached me for anything. And yet I kept seeing headlines. Somebody even had a headline explaining why I turned it down. It was a very difficult time for me. People were saying, hold a press conference, and I said, what are you going to deny? Nobody has offered you anything. What are you going to deny? So let's just say that I won the popular vote. Thank you.
Would you have accepted it though if you were contacted?
I may disagree with the honorable member, because that is a position at the level of Court of Appeal. And I believe that with my track record, I ought to move and aspire higher. Thank you.
It will be recalled government rejected portions of the recommendations of the commission, claiming it did not stick to its mandate. Professor Mensah-Bonsu says that did not diminish the quality of the work they did.
It is customary when people draft appeals to say that the judgment is against the weight of the evidence. So I do not see it except in that light. And enough of the recommendations were accepted for that not to be wholly correct. So yes, the language may have been infelicitous, but the Constitution uses that language. So anybody who wants to question something would be right to use that language, but I don't think it questions our competence in any way, no.
On gay rights advocacy, she called for a balance of perspectives on the issue.
I would say that in general terms, I would want to see the manifestation of that position before I say something definite in one way or the other. There are lots of things we would love to do. There are some people who are born naturally covetous, but we don't allow them to take everything they want to take. So we need to be guided by the specific situations, and then we can deal with them. But I would not use conservative in the way that you use it. It's not meant to be a pejorative word. I have friends who are gay. I work a lot with people on the international circuit. It should not make a difference. I should not discriminate against them because of their choice. But I also don't approve of people ramming something down my throat because that's what they want. So we need to hold a balance.
President Akufo-Addo has applauded the Ghana Armed Forces for its vigilance and diligence during the partial lockdown of Accra, Kumasi and Kaswa and the government response to the coronavirus pandemic. According to him, the role of the security agencies helped in minimizing the spread of the virus. The president was at the Burma camp on Tuesday to commission the first in a series of ongoing housing accommodation projects for the Army under the Barracks Regeneration Program. Whilst highlighting the role played by the forces, the president acknowledged that the COVID-19 has disrupted planned activities for the Ghana Armed Forces. He asked them to maintain high morale and stick to the protocol outlined by the service.
Who is the senior? It is appropriate on this occasion that I express my gratitude and that of the nation to the excellent Chief of Defense Staff, the hard-working officers, men and women of the armed forces, for responding to my call to help in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. I'm proud of your exceptional diligence and vigilance in ensuring that the protocols and restrictions I outlined were complied with, especially during the 3-week partial lockdown of Accra, Kumasi, Tema, and Kaswa. You have been at the forefront of the battle to tackle this national emergency, and your efforts have been laudable in the areas of medical support, logistics chain management, the enforcement of the restrictive measures, and operations on land, sea, and air. Your cooperation with the other security agencies has been exemplary, including helping the Immigration Service to secure our borders. Indeed, the country has taken notice of the strengthening of relations between you and the citizenry. Discipline and self-discipline are easy concepts for you, the men and women in uniform, to appreciate and apply. Lead by example so that the rest of the country can follow. I have no doubt that we, the Ghanaian people, are up to it.
The $100 million Barracks Regeneration Program was launched in 2017. It aims, among others, to fix key challenges facing the service, including accommodation, which is witnessing the construction of various housing units in barracks across the country. Handing over a completed one to serve as accommodation for 64 families, the president repeated his pledge to enhance the welfare of the armed forces.
Today, 64 families will be the beneficiaries of 4 new blocks of 64 apartments. Each of these apartments has a living room, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and standard sanitary facilities. It is gratifying to note that similar ongoing accommodation projects are nearing completion at the Airborne Force, 6th Infantry Battalion in Tamale, and other garrisons. In due course, they will also be commissioned. And I assure you, the government remains committed to dealing with the matters of accommodation of the armed forces. I urge the Military High Command to ensure that these accommodation units are well maintained, with a special appeal going to the new occupants. This must make sure that these facilities stand the test of time.
Defense Minister Dominic Nituo says the barracks will witness significant facelift upon completion of ongoing projects.
West cannot thank you for what you have started for the Ghana Armed Forces. The Chief of Defense Staff has already noted, but I will repeat that your first 3 years of your administration, the amount of resources that you have given to the armed forces, both in welfare and in structures, as well as the tools, the machines, and equipment for the armed forces, cannot be compared. I've said it and I'll continue to say that the amount of resources you have pumped into the Ghana Armed Forces in your first 3 years cannot be compared to any government. Mr. President, we thank you very much. The armed forces have really had a tough time, as I stated before, in seeing accommodation issues being sorted out over the years. But I know that your commitment will see the armed forces have decent accommodation after your 8 years of service to the people of Ghana.
Chief of Defense Staff Brigadier General Obed Aqua says the forces remain loyal and resolute behind the government.
This very act is an ample demonstration of the continuing interest of His Excellency in the welfare of troops and families, which you know is always at the front burner of government's agenda. So, Mr. President, we thank you very much. Your Excellency, since your assumption of office, your government has continued to equip all three services, and this has enabled the Ghana Armed Forces to systematically evolve into a true professional, multi-purpose, and combat-capable force. Permit me, therefore, on behalf of all ranks, to say a very, very big thank you to Mr. President and your able and indefatigable Minister for Defense for these laudable achievements. On our part, we wish to assure Mr. President that the Ghana Armed Forces will continue to remain loyal to the government and the people of Ghana, and we will execute our roles with diligence and utmost professionalism at all times.
Vice President Mamadou Bawumia says the digitization drive of the administration has prepared the country's economy to thrive in what will be a new global economy post-COVID-19. Speaking at the launch of Maslow's Integrated ICT System, an initiative to improve the institution's efficiency, Dr. Bawumia said the move will add up to deliberate efforts to digitize Ghana's payment system. With a new world order gradually unfolding, the administration says it is positioning the country to efficiently trade and operate in the international community.
The ICT integrated system by Maslow, according to Vice President Mamadou Bawumia, is part of government's effort to formalize and digitize the informal economy. That, according to the Vice President, will put Ghana in a better position to face what will be a new normal of global economy post-COVID-19.
Ghana, before the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, had taken a decision to aggressively pursue digitization. The President has had a clear position on this matter of digitization and development. But the global pandemic has only reaffirmed the position of the President that building a digital economy is the way to go. Yes, COVID-19 has been destructive in many ways of our lives, but destructive events can catalyze change for the better. We are witnessing an awakening of a new world order. Business will not be as usual after the crisis. An obvious change after the crisis will be an increased reliance and confidence in technology. So you are seeing that the architecture that Ghana is putting in place has prepared us very, very well for the post-COVID-19 global economy. We are seeing that in Ghana increasingly digital payments are becoming dominant, and this is going to be the way for other countries in the world after COVID.
Speaking about the impact of the COVID-19 on the Ghanaian economy, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta said, given the fact that about 90% of the population are in the informal sector, was part of the reason why the lockdown period could not be extended.
You look at what happened with the lockdown, in which it was quite clear after a point that given that 90% of our population is informal and they go out each day to earn wages, it became increasingly impossible to continue such a policy. And therefore, even as there was reason to unlock ourselves but not let down the protocols, we have to search deep to see how we bring resources for people to be able to do their work on a daily basis. And that has three failings. On the financial side was certainly access to capital, then the price of capital, and then on the distribution side is the issue of digitization.
This initiative by Maslock is expected to bring some level of efficiency in their operations. From the Jubilee House, this is Latif Idris reporting for Joy News.
Police in Kumasi have arrested 11 commercial sex workers after the naked body of a man was found in front of a hotel building at Asafo. Police in the community suspect the dead man may have been pushed from the second floor of the building after what is believed to be a misunderstanding with one of the sex workers after a transaction. The brothel has since been shut down after the police picked up the suspects. Nane Ajima has been following the story.
An Idasu Hotel and Restaurant stands in the middle of Asafo Transport Terminal. For about 2 years, it has been used as a brothel for foreign sex workers. One of them is reported to have shouted for help after the man allegedly threatened to kill her during sexual engagement.
From that window opened up there, according to the people around, they said that particular room is room number 36. From there, the young man was pushed by the commercial sex worker and he landed right here where this vehicle is parked. The people who came here said he didn't die instantly.
An eyewitness, Kwejosafo, says he heard voices in the hotel in the night and thought it was usual quarrels between sex workers and their clients.
We heard noise, followed by loud quarrels. All of us thought it was the usual exchanges. It's a daily occurrence. We later saw one lady carrying her belongings and briskly walking away. Somebody asked where she was going, and she answered someone had died. So we rushed there.
The victim reportedly landed naked with a condom on. Mr. Safo is unsure what ensued in the room, but he suspects the woman had called in her pimps to deal with the victim.
I suspect the pimps are behind the death. There are those who come in whenever there is an issue between the sex workers and their clients.
Preliminary investigations by police revealed the man had threatened to kill the lady, prompting her to call for help. The room was flooded with a number of people believed to be providing security for the sex worker. How the victim fell out of the window remains a puzzle to be unraveled by investigators. Here is Asokwa District Police Commander, Superintendent Christopher Impienin.
According to the lady, the man is not a regular customer. That was the first time he came in there. And also, as to how he died, the two of them were struggling inside the room and she managed to open the door. And when the door finally opened, people came in to rescue her. So the man was also taken away by those who came in. So now what we are trying to establish, whether those who came in to assist the woman pushed the man off board, or the man, in attempt to run away, also jumped through the window. But according to her, in the course of the act, the man was screaming and saying things like, "I'll kill you today," mentioning some names. So she feared for her life. That's why she raised the alarm for the other people to come in and then rescue her. So we will not be able to establish whether it was true or because the two of them were alone inside the room. But one thing was clear, that there were some bites on her chest and then around the breast. And according to her, it was the man who did that to her.
Whether the threat to kill the sex worker was out of excitement or a real intention will also be established by police. From Kumasi for Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
Coffin makers and other players in the funeral industry are lamenting a huge slump in their business in recent weeks, a situation they blame on the coronavirus pandemic. Morgues in the country remain full because many families are waiting on the presidential ban on mass gatherings to be lifted so they can organize huge funerals. Joy News' Henry Kwesi Pedu visited some casket makers and funeral homes in Accra and filed the following report.
From March, when the government announced the ban on funerals, limited the number of funerals, it has affected our operations.
That is Emmanuel Abbey, the manager of the Dakuman-based Abbey Caskets and Funeral Services, lamenting how his business is grinding to a halt. He's been forced to lay off about 80% of his entire workforce since the ban on all forms of social gatherings, including funerals.
Prior to this thing, we had about 17 staff. Now we've reduced our staff to about 4.
Walking around his showroom, Mr. Abbey points at caskets that would have been purchased had it not been for the restrictions on large funerals.
Before COVID, we were doing brisk funerals. People were buying caskets. At least within a week, we sell around 7 caskets. We also do about a minimum of 5 funerals a week. But now, the whole of April, I think, there was no funerals at all.
Solomon Ajari operates a casket crafting shop close to the Kolobu Teaching Hospital, as many Ghanaians are unwilling to organize private burials with 25 persons. Solomon's polished caskets remain packed in his shop. He tells us about the financial difficulty in taking care of his family and staff because of low sales.
As I'm talking to you now, I haven't paid some of my workers. I think today is 12. I haven't paid them. So challenges there is a must. I'm having it. You see, and you see, you can't get it live formally. Now things are not like how it is once we are not in a lockdown. We are not in this program. You see, so we are trying to balance ourselves. You see, I've lost some of my 2-3 workers to be in a house for the meantime. When things started moving, I'll call them back. Because when I'm having all of them, the payment, I'll have a problem in the payment. You see.
Mary Lamte is the owner of a funeral home, but her business has also slumped.
First, no na koso, but say corona anything. I'm a jumana bafom. First, no yet me turn there, but say there.
Before coronavirus, business was flourishing, but since the outbreak, people hardly patronize my services. This is as a result of few people organizing private funerals. Currently, I'm struggling to take care of my children.
Abe wants Ghanaians to bury their dead now and later take a decision on organizing elaborate funerals when the ban is lifted.
To some extent, it's a blessing in disguise. Why should I say that? Now, prior to this, or hitherto, a lot of people complain about expensive funerals. It is about time Ghanaians take a look at the way they do funerals to cut down the costs. So this period will really educate Ghanaians to see how best they can reorganize their funerals to tailor their pocket, to suit their pocket.
If the COVID-19 pandemic persists, many jobs will be affected. Perhaps the coronavirus is telling Ghanaians to change their large and lavish ways of organizing funerals. Henry Kwesi Pedu's report for Joy News. We're taking a break now, after which we're bringing you more business news. Stay tuned in.
Welcome back to Business. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. The coronavirus pandemic has brought the world economy to a standstill. Global growth is set to fall from 2.9% in 2019 into deep negative ground in 2020. In fact, the world is said to have seen nothing like this since World War II. Job losses, bankruptcies, unemployment, and what have you. So, post-COVID-19, I'm sure you want to imagine how the world debt level will be like, especially for developing countries like Ghana. There is a conversation on that shortly, but here is the global picture of how the desktop level is like. And if you can see on your screens, global debt picture at the end of 2019, global debt is about $188 trillion, and that is according to the IMF Global Debt Database. Moving on, for the Sub-Saharan African region, external debt stock, we're starting from 2008 to 2018, and if you can see there, as of 2008, the debt stock was about $236, and then when you come down to 2018, is $583 billion. Now, still on the Sub-Saharan African region, external debt amongst is rising, like I said earlier, and is going faster in other regions as well. We have next, so yes, let's have a breakdown of how it looks like in some countries, and between the 2008 and 2020, 2018, Ethiopia is about 885%. And then Zambia is 521%. Then it comes to Uganda, 437%. And then Ghana is at 395%. And mind you, this is between 2008 and 2018. So over a 10-year period. Those are the figures. And so Ghana was one of the first countries to actually have a sovereign bond, and that was in 2007, and that paved way for a lot of countries to also start looking for money elsewhere. And so that's how it's looking like. Right. More information on that. And so sovereign borrowers in the sub-region, and that's Africa, we have an accumulated of $116 billion in bond. So there are a lot of factors that contributed to the debt level in Africa. What are some of the reasons? Well, buoyant commodity prices, quantitative easing and low interest rates in high-income countries, and increased access to international capital markets. Just some of the few reasons why we have such high debt level. And then let's look at Ghana's numbers. Total public debt in 2019 is $39 billion. And then as of December, and then the public debt is 218 billion Ghana cedis, also in 2019 ending December. And then when you come all the way down to external debt of Ghana is 112.5 billion Ghana cedis as of December 2019. So that's the picture for Ghana. It's actually rising. So joining me via Zoom for more on this is Philip Namfuri. Thanks so much, and great to see you, Philip.
A very good evening to you.
All right, I can't actually see you, Philip, but if you can hear me clearly, I mean, it's clear global debt stock is increasing. How bad is the situation, and how will the picture look like post-COVID-19?
Thank you very much again. I'm sure you are well aware this COVID-19 has, for the global debt picture, like you put in your infograph, 188 trillion in 2018. And it's exposed two important things. One, the vulnerabilities we discuss. And vulnerabilities, what do we mean? The fact that debt is a problem for many countries, particularly countries such as ours or continents such as Sub-Saharan Africa. And two, the debt will significantly rise over time because of the large amounts of money we are pumping into the system. For example, the G20 countries, in terms of fiscal stimulus since the coronavirus outbreak, they pumped in about 6 trillion into their economies. That's the G20 countries, a group of 20. In terms of monetary stimulus also, we're looking at 8 trillion. So just on that point, yes, COVID-19 has really messed up the debt numbers, and it's going to be more or less, I would say, a bit worse in the coming months. We will not get the full picture now, but I'm sure in the next few months, even into next year, we may have a better picture of what the debt situation is globally, and not only in Africa, but globally, both public debt and private debt, so from the government and from companies.
This COVID is actually causing a lot of havoc. But if you look at the data that we showed, Sub-Saharan Africa's total external debt stock is rising, and it's around $583 billion as of 2018. Ghana's debt has also gone up by some 395% over a 10-year period. Looking at all this that is happening in the sub-region, and with a huge debt that is hanging around our neck, how are we going to survive through this, and how is the picture looking like for Africa?
So for Sub-Saharan Africa, like you rightly said, over time, based on a number of factors, our debt has increased. But the important thing we need to note here is the composition of the debt that has changed. Once upon a time, our major creditors or lenders were multilateral institutions, IMF, World Bank, AFDB, etc. Then the bilateral institutions such as the countries we borrow from. So maybe borrowing from Britain or United Kingdom, USA, etc. Over time, African countries have been exposed to the international capital markets. So we've increased our commercial borrowing. The concessional borrowing or borrowing from these multilateral and bilateral lenders were particularly soft. So they don't put a lot of stress on the economies. But with the commercial borrowing, there comes the issue of high interest rates. And if you look at African economies, largely, most of our revenues are used to service debt, pay wages and salaries, and etc. So we have very little left for the infrastructure we want to see. And it's like you're getting money and you're going to use it to pay people. Every time we make money, we go and pay people with it. So that's where the issue comes in, the composition of it. And that's the major issue, that post-COVID-19, we need to start looking at our debts, because people have complained. The IMF, the World Bank, everybody was complaining about our debts before COVID-19 hit. Now is a chance for us to really re-examine this.
And when you say we should re-examine it, what specifically should we be doing? We've had this conversation several times, and we've always said that we should look at mobilizing revenue internally. Domestically, we have to look at the industrial sector, manufacturing sector, but that has not been done, and COVID is here now. How do we deal with the issue?
Okay, well, let me start off with this, Sandra. On the international level, there have been some commitments to ensure that African countries have some breathing room when it comes to our debt. So the IMF, World Bank, G20 have come together to ensure that from May 1st, there's a pause on our debt repayments to our bilateral partners. IMF did the same for what they categorize as poorest countries or most vulnerable economies with their catastrophic containment and relief trust. Now we have a situation where the AU, the Economic Commission for Africa, that's the ECA of the UN, are discussing ways of relieving burdens on our commercial debt, which I just said is causing a lot. But it's easier said than done. It's easy to say, yes, we need to ensure that let's increase our revenue. And African governments know that these are some of the challenges they have. As to how we execute is another issue, which we have to look at in the coming months and reorient how we deal with our debts.
It's good you mentioned that G20. There have been suggestions that we have debt cancellation and also standstill as well. But again, some have also said that in these difficult times, countries should start reprinting money, printing more money into the system. Are we in the position? Do you think, first of all, we should print more money, and whether debt should be cancelled? And if we are going to print money, do you think that we have the strength to print money?
Okay, if you follow the arguments of particularly someone like Dr. Vera Songo, she's the head of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. She's proposing that we shouldn't cancel. We can repay our debts. All we need is the room to give us some space to regrow, if I can say so, for us to pay. With regards to printing money, nobody spends Ghana cedi on the international level. Nobody spends Nigerian naira on the international level, or Zambian kwacha. So the international currencies will dominate, and the issue of the global financial architecture and how somebody would say macro fundamentals are not very strong to contain large amounts of money being pumped into our economy. The US has done over $2 trillion in stimulus. They're not hearing anything about it. When Ghana does anything of that sort, you hear the ripple macro effects that come with it, the inflation, the exit, and stuff like that. So as countries have in Africa, I don't think we have reached that stage where our economic architecture can accept such amounts of money. We can print. Bank of Ghana is guaranteed in law, the Bank of Ghana Act, to finance government up to 5% of previous revenues. That in itself contains some amount of printing, all things being equal. It may not always be the case that money will be printed, but we are allowed up to 5%. So we can explore it. Our finance ministers, governors, etc., can look into it and see what's best for Africa. All right, Philip Namfuri, you're looking like a professor. We'll leave it here tonight. Thanks so much for your time. Philip Namfuri is economic and financial analyst to Joy Business. And so we'll go to the commodity market now, where crude oil crossed the $30 mark today, selling at $30.12 a barrel. How we wrap up tonight on Business. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. Get more news on my joyonline.com/business. Thank you so much for watching.
25 years of broadcasting means that the multimedia group has had the opportunity and the honor of announcing great moments in the history of Ghana. The group has also had the infamy and also the dubious honor of announcing some really bad news. 5 years ago today, one of such happened. So Sir Jones Atukwuefio died, and for regular watchers of the Joy News channel for many years, you might recall that the change in set, will bring back a few memories.
The sports fraternity has been hit with the sad demise of legendary Ghanaian coach, footballer and administrator Jones Cecil Atukwuefio at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra this morning. Sir Atukwuefio, as he is affectionately called, coached the Black Starlets to the FIFA Under-17 World Cup bronze medal in 1999 in New Zealand, and was also the assistant coach for the Black Meteors team that won Africa's first Olympic football medal in Barcelona in 1992 with bronze. He also made great strides with the senior national team, the Black Stars. So how do we remember the legacy of this great Ghanaian sports personality, and how important is this legacy to sports development in Ghana? This is today's big story with me, Stephen.
Stephen Anti has since moved on. However, the legacy of Jones Atukwuefio remains. Let's remind ourselves of what this great man did as we look back on the day that he passed away. 1996 was when he really came into the national psyche, taking Ghana's under-23 team to Olympic bronze in Atlanta. Between 98 and 99, he took under-17 in terms of the AFCON title, and then placed third at the global level. Clearly, he was cut for greatness. Hearts of Oak took him on where the magic of Sir Jones came in its full glory, winning 4 Ghana Premier League titles and 2 FA Cups. As if that was not all, he said, hold my beer. In 2000, he won the Champions League, the CAF Champions League, and in 2001, he won the CAF Super Cup to cement his legacy. And then he decided, you know what, Ghana is too small for me. He went to make history by taking Benin Squirrels to their first ever Africa Cup of Nations in 2004. What a man, what a legacy, and what a legend. And just to cement our nostalgia, remember this interview from the first leg of the 2004 CAF Confederations Cup. Hearts played with Asante Kotoko after the game.
My lady didn't have a good day. They tried to play, but the day is not for them, and that is what actually caused, my team to have a hard draw.
Which players are you talking about?
Well, during my campaign, I think Don Botte and Lawrence Haji hit a very tremendous form. I thought they were going to do the do for us, unfortunately, and I'm sure they did not. They made quite a lot of mistakes, and that did not help the team very much. But I hope that in the next match they'll be able to correct the mistakes. We'll be able to rectify some of the areas that we fall short, and I'm sure that the battle will be in Kumasi. My lady didn't have a good day. They try to play, but the day is not for them.
Unmistakable, Sir Jones Atukwuefio resting in peace. But, well, his legacy for Heart of Folk is there to be seen. Let's move on to other things. And this is somebody who is also identified with Heart of Folk. Lai Kingston played for the Phobians to end his career, as you will recall. But in terms of career regrets, this storied footballer has a huge blank in terms of the 2006 World Cup and the 2010 World Cup. He spoke to Nathaniel Atto on the Joy Sports Link on Saturday.
Even till today, when I think back, it's still very difficult. For me, when you ask me today that, are you happy with your career? I would say yes, but apart from that World Cup appearance, you know, every player's dream is to be in that major tournament, which is the Senior World Cup. And you can see when you're sitting back watching the World Cup, the way the players are very eager, players are giving everything, leaving everything on the pitch. You can see how important that tournament is, and I'm not part of the squad, not to even taste it. You know, it's something that for me, I think it's a lot. But in whole, I always say that maybe it's good to happen. Maybe if I go in that World Cup, maybe I wouldn't be able to continue my career. Something might have happened. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise.
2006 World Cup, he was in great form, but a yellow card in the African Cup of Nations ensured that he was not taken to the tournament. And before 2010, he had problems with coach Milovan Rahevat, meaning that he could not go to that World Cup as well. And before 2014, he was coming to the end of his career, and so he was not part of the reckoning. So that's the story for Lai Kingston, and that ends the sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. Shall we do this again tomorrow? Of course we should.
It's time for Joy News Interactive, and there are a number of stories that we're looking at. I like to look at this story that Kojo Yangsing did. He went all the way to Bogatanga. Last week we brought you a story of a little girl who was pelted with stones because people said the mother had COVID-19. All right, so the story was posted. It has what, some 21 comments and 13 shares. It's just about an hour ago. I expect that a lot more people will be excited about it. Now, Amankwaya says the people who did that need to be arrested, as in the people who pelted the little girl with stones. Sandra Bodo says, what's all this? My girl, indeed, God is with you and your family. Sheila Nyako says, God will always be with you, dear. B. Davina says, this is bad, poor child. Eben Akita says, when someone is asked to self-quarantine, what really are the conditions considered to make such determination? Looks like this man was looking for food in the community shops while he's supposed to be in quarantine. GHS, or Ghana Health Service, should be making sure these people have psychological support and adequate food at home. Looks like the communities are more at risk because he's using the neighborhood kids for errands. That's exposing their kids and their families. And then Eben concludes, there is no excuse for stigmatization. However, these cases can be managed better. More public education is badly needed. And he concludes, my humble 2 cents.
And of course, on PM Express tonight, we're having a one-on-one conversation with Mahama Yerega, MP for Boko Central. And he's been making a call to his party that it's time for a running mate to be chosen by the flag bearer, because though there is COVID, there is no time, because at all costs, elections must happen in December. He's been saying a lot of things, but we posted this on Facebook. Look at the comments that it's generated. A lot of comments there, 97 comments. Just a while ago, 132 shares and 132 likes, 31 shares. King Gorazo says, Mohammed's own people have finally had enough. Oh, I don't think it's in this sense, because he's just advising his party, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Agbamevo says, very pathetic. We're being a bit harsh. Alexander says, we're going to vote for Mahama and not the running mate. The running mates may sometimes and not at all time add vote to the presidential candidate. Baumia and Nanado were defeated twice, so what's their problem? They want to know so that they can say falsehood. And news just in, some good news actually. We're told that Papa Usan Kuma has recovered. He's a commissioner, UK commissioner, and you heard the news of his he being infected with COVID-19, and the statement has just